Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, those standing on the edge of destiny, I came to remind you today. Don't lose focus on the promise God placed on your life. There is a word spoken over you long before you showed up in the world, a divine assignment planted like a seed in the soil of your spirit. You may not see the fruit yet, you may not understand the journey, but the promise still lives. You see, when God gives you a promise, He rarely gives an explanation. He doesn't show you the route. He simply gives you a destination. And sometimes the road winds through valleys you never wanted to walk through. Yet the promise remains intact. Some of you are questioning, Lord, why is this taking so long? But hear me, delay is not denial. Your promise is maturing, your character is growing, your faith is being strengthened. Storms will come. People may walk away, doors may close. But storms do not cancel the promise, they reveal who you are becoming. The promise was never built on comfort. It was built on purpose, and purpose requires pressure. Some of you have been distracted by fear, by circumstances, by what they told you you'd never be. But let me tell you this, people don't have the power to validate or cancel what God has spoken. If heaven said it, you can stand on it. If God planted it, you can walk in it. The enemy knows he can't remove the promise, so he attacks your focus. He wants your attention, your energy, your confidence, because a distracted believer is a defeated believer. But today, I call you back to focus. Focus on what God said, not what you see. Focus on your purpose, not your problem. Focus on the promise, not the pain. When you can't see the way, keep walking. When you can't feel God moving, keep believing. Faith doesn't need sight. Faith needs commitment. The God who called you is the God who will carry you. The God who started the work is the God who will finish it. He is not intimidated by your failure. He is not limited by your mistakes. He is not worried about your enemies. If He spoke it, it must come to pass. So today, stand tall, wipe your tears, shake off the dust, and remind yourself, God's promise still rests on me. You are not forgotten, you are not finished, you are not abandoned, you are being prepared. There is glory ahead. There is purpose ahead. There is fulfillment ahead. Hold your focus, keep your faith, walk your journey. Because the promise God placed on your life will come to pass. Amen. Every promise God plants has a time attached to it, even if He doesn't show you the schedule. When a promise is spoken over your life, it doesn't show up fully formed. It comes as a seed, and a seed must endure darkness before it ever sees the light. The ground hides it, the soil covers it, and the seed has to surrender to a process that doesn't always feel pleasant. Yet without the process, there can be no growth. Many people receive a word from God and think fulfillment is instant, but anything divine requires development. God is more committed to maturing you than rushing you. He knows a promise given too early is a blessing mishandled. If you step into your calling before your character is ready, the weight of the promise might crush you. Delay is not God ignoring you. Delay is God preparing you. He stretches patience so capacity can grow. He allows silence so roots can deepen. He permits waiting so wisdom can form. We often pray, Lord, give me the promise, while God responds, let me shape the promise bearer. The promise isn't just about what you'll receive, it's about who you must become. What is destined for you must be prepared in you. The danger is in trying to rush what heaven has timed. When we don't see results, we assume something is wrong. We look at others who seem to be flourishing and wonder if God forgot our address. But truth is, you cannot compare your season with someone else's harvest. They may be reaping because they endured their process. Now it's your turn to trust God in yours. God is not unjust. He didn't invest a promise in you just to abandon it. If he spoke it, he intends to fulfill it. But on his time, not yours. The enemy doesn't need to steal the promise. He just needs to convince you to abandon it. He whispers that it's taking too long, that maybe you misheard God, that you aren't worthy, that it's never going to happen. He introduces frustration so you'll forfeit what is actually still developing. Many promises die, not because God said no, but because we walked away before the appointed time. Patience isn't passive, it's spiritual endurance. It is the discipline of believing God even when nothing visible changes. It's the strength to hold on while your emotions try to pull you away. Everything God promises goes through a gestation. Just like a child in the womb, you cannot rush its birth. Trying to accelerate what God ordained can bring unnecessary pain. Trust that the unseen work is just as important as what will eventually be revealed. God is working behind doors you can't open. He's preparing people you haven't met. He's aligning opportunities you haven't imagined. When the time is right, what looks impossible will unfold as if it always belonged to you. Don't despise the hidden season. The hidden season is the proving ground. It's where God teaches you to depend on him, where he frees you from addiction to applause, where he strengthens your identity in his word. When the promise finally manifests, you won't be shaken by praise or threatened by criticism, because you were rooted before you were revealed. Hold steady, remain faithful, protect your heart from impatience. Refuse to dismiss what God is still developing. Your promise is not fragile. It is fortified by heaven. The one who began the work has not forgotten the timeline. He knows when the doors must open and when the blessing must arrive. When it comes, you will look back and say, the wait wasn't wasted. The process made me ready. Storms do not mean God changed his mind about you. Storms come to grow you, to shape you, to stretch you, and to show you the strength you didn't know you carried. When God places a promise on your life, he doesn't wrap it in comfort. He wraps it in challenge, because everything that is destined must be tested. The storm is not the enemy. The storm is the training ground. Sometimes you look at your life and wonder, if God really promised me something, why am I going through this? But storms are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of preparation. The wind is not pushing you away from purpose. It's pushing you into deeper trust. The waves are not here to drown you. They are here to remind you that God still commands the seas. If you never faced opposition, you would never discover the power God placed within you. You only learn how strong your faith is when the situation tries to break it. There will be moments when everything seems to fall apart, relationships shift, finances dry up, doors close, people fail you, and you will question whether the promise still stands. But you must understand, storms don't cancel what God has spoken. A storm can shake the branches, but it can't uproot what God has planted. What God promised is anchored in eternity. Even when everything around you is trembling, the word on your life remains unshaken. In the storm, God is not testing the promise. He is testing the carrier. He knows the assignment is weighty, and he uses storms to build the strength needed to fulfill it. You cannot carry a king's anointing with a child's endurance. You cannot walk into destiny with untested faith. The storm makes you resilient. It kills pride. It silences fear. It teaches you the difference between depending on your strength and relying on His. The promise is the treasure, but the storm is the forge that shapes the vessel. Some battles you face are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to reveal who you are. You never know you can stand until something tries to knock you down. You never know you can pray until pressure drives you to your knees. You never know God as your provider until you reach a moment where provision must come from heaven. The storm forces you to see Him more clearly and to see yourself more truthfully. You may feel like the storm is too strong, but God would never allow winds you were not built to withstand. The fact that you are still standing, still breathing, still fighting, is evidence that the storm has not won. You might be scarred, but you are not defeated. You might be weary, but you are not finished. Sometimes God lets the storm rage while He keeps you steady, not because He can't calm the storm, but because He's teaching you to trust Him in the chaos. There are blessings that only show up after the storm. There is clarity that only comes after confusion. There is wisdom that only grows after wounds. There is spiritual authority that rises only after adversity. When the clouds clear and the sun returns, you will look back at what you survived and realize you are stronger, wiser, and more focused than ever before. The storm didn't take you out. It trained you. The promise still stands, but you are not the same. You've been refined. You've been strengthened. You've been awakened to who you are in God. The storm did not arrive to destroy the promise. It arrived to prepare you to carry it. So, don't curse the storm, don't fear the wind. Lift your head, spread your faith, and walk forward, because the storm that tried to break you is the very storm that built you for the promise ahead. Your calling is not controlled by who claps for you, who recognizes you, or who believes in you. The one who authored your destiny did not consult anyone before He chose you. He didn't call a committee, didn't take a vote, didn't ask permission. He simply spoke a word over your life and breathed purpose into your existence. Heaven's decision concerning you was made before people had the chance to form an opinion. That means your calling is not dependent on human approval, and it cannot be canceled by human rejection. Too many people delay their assignment because they are waiting for validation from voices that were never meant to guide them. You think if they approve, you are worthy. If they applaud, you are called. If they agree, you can proceed. But the truth is this: people don't have the power to confirm what God has already established. Some will misunderstand you. Some will underestimate you. Some will ignore you, but none can overturn what God has ordained. There are people who can't see your promise because they haven't heard what heaven spoke. They see your past, but God sees your purpose. They measure your weaknesses, but God measures your potential. They judge you by where you are, but God knows where you're going. You can't expect people to understand what wasn't revealed to them. Your calling is spiritual, their perception is limited, so stop shrinking to fit their expectations. Stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. Stop apologizing for being who God called you to be. Sometimes the greatest test isn't the struggle, it's the silence of support. You step forward believing God, and suddenly the people you thought would cheer you on step back. They question your motives, your timing, your ability. They challenge what God confirmed. But you must stand firm, because what God placed in you is bigger than their doubts. If he appointed you, he will anoint you. If he sent you, he will sustain you. Your calling did not start with people, and it does not end with them. Rejection is not a sign that you are unqualified. It is proof that God is separating you from voices that would hinder your growth. Sometimes he hides you on purpose. He keeps you in the shadows, not because you lack value, but because he is developing you away from the noise. If you become too focused on who applauds you, you become vulnerable to who criticizes you. God wants your confidence built on his word, not on human approval. When you stop trying to win people's approval, you unlock another level of boldness. You begin walking with authority. You start speaking with conviction. You stop asking, do they agree? And start saying, God said it, that settles it. You stop waiting for permission to be what you already are. Purpose becomes your compass, not popularity. There will be those who try to pull you backward because they cannot handle your forward motion. They remember who you used to be and struggle to accept who you are becoming. They try to confine you to old labels and past seasons. But your calling is not bound to your history. It is anchored to divine destiny. Your past may explain you, but it does not define you. When God transforms you, every limitation placed on you becomes irrelevant. You must learn to stand even when you stand alone. Walk when no one understands. Build when no one believes. Trust that God sees what others overlook. He called you because he knows what he placed inside you. The assignment on your life is God's idea, not man's. And if God initiated it, no human can terminate it. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders, stop waiting for approval that doesn't matter. Move forward in faith, because when God chooses you, no one can unchoose you. When he opens the door, no one can close it. When he marks you, no one can erase it. You are called, whether they acknowledge it or not. Focus is one of the most powerful spiritual tools you possess. The enemy knows he cannot steal the promise God placed over your life, so he works tirelessly to steal your attention. If he can distract you, he can delay you. If he can confuse you, he can discourage you. If he can divide your focus, he can detour your destiny. That is why guarding your focus is not optional, it is essential. Purpose requires precision. Destiny demands discipline. Every great assignment is fulfilled by those who learn to silence the noise and center their attention on what God has said. Distraction is subtle. It doesn't always come dressed as sin. Sometimes it arrives as busyness, comparison, or emotional chaos. It can appear harmless, a conversation, an opportunity, a relationship. But if it pulls you away from what God told you to do, it is a distraction. You must learn to discern the difference between what is good and what is God. Not every open door is divine. Not every voice is meant to guide you. Not every invitation deserves your time. Focus means choosing intentionally, refusing what drains you, and investing in what builds your faith. The enemy understands that a focused believer is a dangerous believer. When your eyes are fixed on God, fear loses authority. When your attention is centered on the promise, doubt loses strength. When your heart is anchored in truth, temptation loses power. This is why the enemy attacks your mind. He wants to scatter your thoughts and keep you anxious, overwhelmed, and uncertain. Because if he can occupy your mind, he can limit your movement. Focus requires the courage to say no. You must release certain people, habits, and environments that keep you tied to who you used to be. Some connections were fine for a previous season, but they are too small for the destiny you're pursuing. You can't take everyone with you. You can't carry every weight. You can't maintain every commitment. Your future requires pruning. God will often cut away what distracts so he can strengthen what remains. It may hurt, but it is holy. You must also guard your focus from internal sabotage, your own thoughts, fears, and insecurities. The enemy whispers, but sometimes your own inner voice echoes doubts louder than anything around you. You tell yourself you aren't qualified, smart enough, strong enough, chosen enough. But focus shifts your attention from who you are to who God is. You stop measuring your future by your ability and start measuring it by His promise. You don't need to have all the answers. You need to keep your eyes on the one who does. Distraction often shows up dressed as urgency. It pressures you to react instead of respond, to rush instead of rest, to chase approval instead of pursue purpose. But focus teaches you to move intentionally. It reminds you that your life has direction. Your choices matter. You are not wandering, you are becoming. Each step, each decision, each sacrifice is shaping you into the person capable of carrying the promise. Focus is a daily discipline. You must choose it again and again. When worry tries to dominate your thoughts, refocus on His word. When fear tries to freeze your progress, refocus on His faithfulness. When voices around you pull you in different directions, refocus on what He said. There is power in returning your attention to the promise. It keeps you steady when storms rage. It keeps you hopeful when doors close. It keeps you moving when the journey feels long. And understand this: you will lose battles you should have won if you lose focus. The promise is real, but you must protect your attention. You cannot allow every situation, every comment, every emotion to dictate your direction. God has already marked the path. Your job is to stay on it. When you guard your focus, you guard your future. When you protect your attention, you protect your assignment. The promise is intact, waiting for you to arrive. Stay focused, and you will see it manifest. Faith is not proven when everything makes sense. Faith is proven when nothing does. When God gives a promise, He often leads you down a path that cannot be understood with natural sight. You stand in a season where you can't see the outcome, can't predict the next step, can't trace what God is doing. Yet something inside you keeps moving because real faith doesn't rely on physical evidence. It relies on divine assurance. To walk by faith is to move when your eyes have no information, but your spirit has revelation. There will be moments when the promise looks too far away, when the mountain seems too high, when the burden feels too heavy. Your circumstances will whisper, "Stop. It's not going to happen." But faith replies, "Keep walking. God is still working." Faith is movement. It doesn't wait for comfort. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't demand clarity. It simply says, "If God said it, I can step toward it." Even when your heart is trembling and your mind is uncertain, faith presses forward. When you cannot trace His hand, you must trust His character. God has never lied. He has never failed. He has never made a promise He could not keep. Sight looks at the facts. Faith listens to His voice. Sight sees scarcity. Faith sees provision. Sight sees obstacles. Faith sees opportunities. Sight focuses on what is against you. Faith focuses on who is for you. That is why faith is not about denying reality. It is about believing that God's truth is greater than your reality. Some seasons will feel like walking through darkness. You pray but hear nothing. You knock but no door opens. You sacrifice but see no return. These are the moments when faith is refined. In silence, faith learns to stand. In waiting, faith learns to trust. In confusion, faith learns to rest in God's sovereignty. He does his best work when you can't see what he's doing, because then your confidence isn't in the plan. It's in the planner. Faith also requires obedience. Sometimes God will ask you to step into something that makes no sense at all. He may tell you to build before there's rain, to sow before there's soil, to speak before there's proof. Faith doesn't negotiate, it obeys. Faith doesn't wait for the confirmation of people. It stands on the confirmation of heaven. When God tells you to move, your job is not to understand. It is to respond, because every miracle is preceded by movement. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to keep going in spite of fear. Courage is not found in confidence. It's found in obedience. Sometimes your knees will shake while you walk. Sometimes tears will fall while you trust. Sometimes doubt will knock at your door, but faith answers every time saying, I still believe. Faith refuses to surrender to discouragement. It anchors itself in God's promise, not in human expectation. There will be days when you feel like giving up. The journey will feel long. The road will feel lonely. But faith reminds you that God has not forgotten. He is working in hidden places, arranging circumstances, aligning opportunities, preparing hearts. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Seeds grow underground before they break the soil. Likewise, God grows breakthroughs in silence before they manifest in your life. Walking by faith requires vision that goes beyond the natural. You see not with physical eyes, but with spiritual ones. You see possibility where others see impossibility. You see future where others see failure. You see fulfillment where others see emptiness. That is why faith can't depend on sight, because sight is limited, but God is not. Faith reaches into the unseen and pulls what God promised into reality. So keep walking step by step, prayer by prayer, moment by moment. Even if you don't understand, trust Him. Even if you don't see, believe Him. Even if you don't feel it, stand on His word. Faith may not give you details, but it will give you direction. It may not show you the whole picture, but it will guide your next step. And when the promise finally manifests, you will testify that every step of blindness was worth it, because God was leading you all along. When God begins a work in your life, He already sees the end from the beginning. He is not experimenting with you, guessing how things will turn out, or hoping circumstances align. His promise is not a suggestion, it is a declaration. Before the seed of destiny was planted inside you, He had already prepared the harvest. He authored the purpose, designed the process, and holds the power to complete it. What He starts, He sustains. What He sustains, He finishes. The God who spoke your promise into existence is the same God who will bring it to fulfillment. Sometimes your journey goes through valleys you never expected. Plans shift, life gets messy. You may feel as though you've drifted too far or failed too deeply for God's promise to still stand. But the continuation of the promise is not dependent on your perfection. It is anchored in His faithfulness. Your mistakes can't cancel the work He began. Your weakness can't stop his will. Your limitations don't intimidate him. He knew your flaws when he called you. He factored your failures into the design and still said, I will finish what I started. There will be seasons where it feels like nothing is happening, where prayers seem unanswered, doors seem locked, and progress seems impossible. But God often works behind the scenes, quietly arranging the details and preparing the breakthrough. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean God stopped moving. He is the master builder. He never abandons a project mid-construction. He keeps shaping, aligning, strengthening, and preparing you until you are ready to carry the fullness of what He promised. You may find yourself asking, how will God do it? Or when will it happen? The answer is simple: in His time, in His way. God is sovereign. He is not pressured by your clock or limited by your timeline. He doesn't rush, but He never delays. When the appointed time arrives, nothing in hell or on earth can stop the promise from coming forth. What looks like a sudden breakthrough is often the product of years of God's unseen work. While you were waiting, He was working. While you were growing impatient, He was growing your capacity. God is committed to your development, not just your destination. He completes His work thoroughly. He refuses to give you a promise without giving you the strength to carry it. He refuses to open a door if you are not ready to walk through it. He refuses to elevate you until your character can handle the elevation. His finishing work is not just about fulfilling the promise. It's about forming you into the person who can steward it well. He builds endurance, cultivates trust, deepens faith, and strengthens identity so that when the promise arrives, it does not crush you. Sometimes God allows challenges so the promise is secured in you. Trials teach you dependence. Delays teach you patience. Struggles teach you perseverance. Every obstacle is part of the construction process. What looks like opposition is often God's way of preparing the foundation. You may feel like you're going backward, but God is actually positioning you. He doesn't waste pain. Every season, every tear, every disappointment is woven into the fulfillment of His plan. Even when you feel stuck, God is still moving. Even when you feel lost, God is still guiding. Even when you feel broken, God is still restoring. He never starts something He doesn't intend to finish. He didn't call you to leave you. He didn't promise you to forget you. He didn't begin your journey to abandon you halfway. If God started it, He will complete it no matter how long it takes, no matter what it requires. Your responsibility is to keep trusting, keep walking, keep believing. His responsibility is to finish what He began, and He always does. One day, you will look at the fulfillment of the promise and realize that every twist, every turn, every delay, and every hardship was preparing you for the greatness God planned. The story isn't over. God is still writing, and when He finishes, it will be more beautiful than you imagined, more powerful than you dreamed, and more complete than you hoped.